Welcome to Fresh Off the Boat. I'm delighted to be interviewing Prakrit Barua, a student, a friend's son I've known for many years now, when he was at Tanglein Trust School in Singapore. So way back in 2014-15 is when I used to really visit Singapore often. It was fun to meet you at your place. And I always knew that, okay, fine, Prakrit and your brother, Nirvik, both are really enthusiastic about CS. And I wasn't surprised when you chose to study CS. Now you've graduated from Brown University, infamous CS program. Not that very beautiful looking building, tall building on campus I've visited. But reflecting back on your overall Brown experience, what are the three things you would say were special for you?
Sure. Overall, I think the first thing that really stands out is just the people that I've met. Incredible people overall, studying very many different subjects and getting to interact with them over the 4 years, seeing their interest in their own subjects and learning from them as they pursue those interests has been honestly changed my life in many different ways. So I've really appreciated that. I think computer science at Brown is also a very important part of my last 4 years, obviously. It's been great, not only because I've become a better computer scientist throughout the process, but I've also been able to explore so many other subjects at the same time, which I know that a lot of my peers in other colleges might not have had as much of an opportunity to do so when I talk to them. And the third thing, I think I've really enjoyed my experience talking to and learning from professors on a more sort of one-to-one individual basis. I've gone to them for general life advice or advice on a subject, and they've always been very, very helpful and very accommodating. So I've always appreciated any of those talks that I've had.
Wonderful. I'd really want to know more about CS and how it's taught and, different sort of tracks students normally end up taking, and what was your journey like?
Absolutely. So I think like a lot of CS students at Brown, I didn't come in thinking I would do CS. I thought I'd be doing applied maths and maybe English. But I took the intro sequence here. So an intro sequence at Brown, there's generally 2 or 3 intro sequences you could take. So sort of a beginner one that's a bit more fun and game inspired, where you build some cool projects, and then a slightly more difficult track where you get to do some more complex projects, and some might say more rigorous. I personally wouldn't say that because I didn't do it. And then a really fast tracked version that is, instead of a full year, a half year. So you can get into the CS concentration instead of major at Brown by doing one of those 3 introductory sequences. And then after that, you're free to explore whichever part of computer science you want to. And now Brown has a different system in order to concentrate in CS, where you pick a specific track or 2 tracks, depending on whether you're doing the Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science. So the 2 specific tracks I picked were data science and artificial intelligence. So that's where most of my courses were structured towards.
So very often students who are just embarking on understanding computer science, they jump the gun a little bit and they start thinking of data science, AI, ML. But what is the actual progression? What do you really think is advised in terms of starting out as a CS student?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Brown has, I think, 5 core courses that you need to take that are split amongst the core disciplines of computer science. So you learn basics of how to code and how to think about algorithms and data structures. And then you have computer systems. So that's an extremely rigorous course that most of us hate here at Brown, but you have to do it. And then you have some sort of mathematics of computer science course that you need to take, and theory of computer science, which is also very interesting. So with that sort of basis, you understand more what you're interested in, what you want to study further, and then you can pick some electives. So after doing those introductory courses, I realized I was much more interested in the algorithm side of things, and I absolutely hated any systems programming. So I steered clear of that, and then took some more electives in that side of things, and then realized I was really interested in data science.
And what are the kind of projects you work on? And of course, not just assignments, but also the different challenges, competitions. CS majors are known for being busy even during weekends, doing different things. hackathons, competitions. How does all of that help in your understanding of what's new in the CS fraternity, and what did you sort of use as experiences to learn?
Yeah. So the good thing about Brown CS is you don't have to do all or any of these things really to get a lot out of the experience. But for me personally, I did a decent amount of research at my time here. I was working in the artificial intelligence lab at Brown, and that was sort of a happy accident. I was looking for a research position over a summer basically, and I landed on that. But they do a lot of healthcare and machine learning / artificial intelligence in one. They're basically just trying to improve patient care using AI. So through that experience, that's how I really understood that I wanted to specialize in data science. And I think that research generally helps a lot of Brown CS majors understand what they want to do and what they enjoy and what they don't enjoy. Other than that, I know that a lot of people get involved in hackathons, as you mentioned, a lot of extracurriculars where you might be creating websites or engaging in competitions. And yeah, I think generally just being involved in the computer science community at Brown is a pretty enriching experience.
Fantastic. You mentioned about AI and healthcare, and I noticed that you are currently sort of supposed to be working at Flatiron Health. Is that the job you're starting? You were also an intern there. So there's this obvious connection with what you studied and your area of focus in research as an assistant. What exactly do you see, other than smart devices and wearables, where do you see AI in healthcare? If you had a few buckets to sort of fill, how would you describe the application of AI in healthcare?
Absolutely. So I think there's a lot of different avenues. I can say a couple of the ones that I've been working in or I'm more familiar with. There's a push to make medicine and healthcare generally more personalized to patients. So precision medicine is how can we treat patients on a more individual basis by considering the individual patient's experience. And we can do that a lot by gathering data from loads of other patients and seeing what works for patients that have very specific comorbidities or multiple diseases at once, or have very specific genes, for example. So giving medicines or certain treatments that fit patients very specifically is one method that artificial intelligence is being used towards. You're also seeing it used in how we decide policy. So using previous data to understand, does this drug pass standards for an efficacious drug, despite not having done like a proper control sequence test? Like you can use data to sort of supplement a normal decision-making process, which could speed up not only drug development, but also policy regarding healthcare. There's just loads of things, honestly, from how we create drugs and how we research drugs and diseases to how we actually deliver care. So I'm not going to be able to talk about most of them.
Yeah, that's definitely useful. So very often, very ambitious high school kids come over and say, okay, we want to learn all of this, and then find a killer sort of project to work on. And all of these sound fairly complicated. What advice would you give high schoolers who are really enthusiastic and are being self-guided in some sense, doing interesting certifications, to focus on in terms of problem solving using computer science, AI?
Sure. I'm not sure I can give any advice beyond my own personal interest about college applications or anything like that. But I've recently been looking a lot at data sets to do with coronavirus or disease in general, and thinking about what we can learn from those data sets. So there's loads of resources out there, both in terms of data sets that already exist or about how you can access data on the internet. So if just downloading those and playing around with those, there's really interesting things you can always do. So yeah, just mess around with stuff. It's cool.
Super. So I'm going to switch gears and get back to life on campus at Brown and Providence, of course. How is it like settling in socially It's Brown has a reputation of being a fun place, but also where students are really smart and hardworking. Uh, how much of that is true, personally for you, and how did you change over the years in terms of participation in activities and even the way you are now?
For sure. Coming into it freshman year, I think it was a bit jarring because life in Singapore, where I lived for the last 10 years beforehand, was very different to life in America, and especially in Providence. It's such a small place here that it takes some getting used to. But I think everyone is very friendly. And once you get over that initial cultural difference, then you're going to find great friends here. As you said, people are very smart, but more than that, they're very, very kind. They're very generous and they're very welcoming. So it took a bit of time, but afterwards I was very ingrained, I think, in the community here, found a great group of friends. And yeah, 4 years passed by quickly.
How did you get involved in different activities, which clubs and societies?
Yeah. Freshman year, I didn't do a huge amount of activities and all. I just focused on, I got a bit sucked into the classes, to be honest, and I just focused on making friends and all of that. So it was really to do with the people I lived around in my dorm. Brown has a really strong dorm culture, it seems, where people who live with each other tend to become very good friends, at least for the first couple of years. And then you sort of find your groups after that. But then second year, I did a couple more activities and extracurriculars, and those were more for personal interest. I don't think I met my closest friends through that, but it did help me sort of understand things I was interested in and wasn't interested in as much. And then, yeah, it sort of continued from there.
Fantastic. So where are you headed next in terms of work and in terms of your mind space? And of course, the pandemic might have given you time to reflect. So what are you keen to start at work? And also, as a person, what are the few things you're working on?
Yeah, so I'll be in New York starting in August, hopefully, if things haven't been pushed off. And I'll be working, as you said, in Flatiron Health's data science team. So that's a healthcare technology company aiming to solve problems for cancer patients. And I'm really looking forward to that. Of course, I'm very interested in data science, but I'm also interested to see how products are made from start to finish and maybe get more involved in the project management side of things as opposed to just pure engineering or data science. So I think that's going to be really interesting, at least on the career side of things. On the more personal or social end, New York is an amazing place, and I loved being there last year. So just seeing all my friends there, but in a different, probably more fun city, is going to be an interesting experience. And getting involved in everything that there is to do there and figuring out what that is going to be a challenge, but something I look forward to.
That's wonderful. I'm going to switch gears and ask you a few rapid fire questions. And the first one is, if you were to reflect back on any embarrassing moment of failure or some moment where you could have done something better, what was that and what did you reflect upon?
Sure. So I remember sophomore year very distinctly. I took that computer systems course that I was telling you about, and I took it with some friends that were extremely, extremely intelligent, and they just sort of breezed through the course and didn't really have any issues with it. But I struggled a lot throughout that course, and I was taking some other courses at the same time that I really struggled with, and that I really beat myself up over that. And I let that affect me in ways that I don't think I should have. And I'm sort of embarrassed about how much it affected me, I think. So if I was to do that again, I would have a bit more perspective and wouldn't freak out as much and take things a bit more slowly.
Okay, next question. If you were to pick 3 adjectives that describe your strengths, which 3 words would you pick?
That's a bit more difficult. I'd say adaptable, driven, kind.
Super. One last question about this whole college application process and all the awkwardness of being a high schooler and then being judged by someone half the world across by just your writing or your SAT scores and academics and all that. What do you think about the whole application process, and reflecting back, what do you think worked in your case?
Sure. I think that honestly, having gone through the whole thing and seeing how my brother went through the whole thing, it seems like complete luck of the draw to me. And I don't know if there's any real advice I have on that end, because Brown was my ED choice and I didn't really have a chance to compare how I did with any other universities. But at least seeing my brother's experience and what schools he did get into and what schools he didn't get into, it seems like complete luck. And if you're beyond a certain threshold, I'm sure there are loads of fantastic people. And all of them should get in if they could, if they had the numbers, but don't because of just the limitations. So I'm not sure if I have any advice there.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thanks, Prakrit. It's been fantastic catching up on this kind of fast-paced chat with you. We will be announcing a few panels where we want students from different backgrounds and different interests to join us. I'll let you know more about that schedule, kind of do a mashup with creatives and data scientists and see what happens in that conversation, just to give you an example. And yeah, love to know more about you in those chats. Looking forward. Thank you again. Let's stay in touch.